Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new EDGYZoom. Really should call this Pigskin preview for the most part, but probably would get a cease and desist order in email or however they do those these days. But yes, I am Edgy Tim, and joining us are just a couple of my friends because let's face it, we're not doing anything better at this time and haven't for the last year. So figured I'd bring them aboard. First of all, my partner on Thursday nights every fall, well, until this fall, we'll get into that. But you know him, you love him. Coach Joe Rodriguero joining us. Joe, appreciate you hopping on board.
Hey, anytime, Eds. You asked me to come on, I will.
And also joining us, the velvet-voiced play-by-play man from 1340 WJOL. Back when they used to do sports, one, the only, Dave Dwyer. Dewey, how are you, my friend?
I'm a little out of practice. Haven't done a game of any sort since February.
So do you like drive around in your car pretending to do play-by-play during all this or what?
It's kind of interesting. No, you know, I have my son who does that now. I just drive by the stadiums and just think about games and years gone by.
So Joe, we got the answer. He's actually doing play-by-play at Daniel's games, is what he's telling us.
Well, he's coaching actually with baseball. He was coaching.
Yeah. And obviously doing his play-by-play as well. No kids. Mr. Dwyer isn't talking to himself. He's doing play-by-play. Well, Dewey, I'll start with you. We're just now over a year, completely missed a 2020 IHSA football season. You know, this has been what, Joe, 9 months now, I think, with this.
Yeah, 9,
fall,
10 months, yep.
Dewey, how was your fall this year minus football?
Wow. It very bizarre. I mean, I've been doing this 27 years, calling games and everything, and just a lot of time on your hands that you never thought you would have, and just feel sorry for the seniors. All the other kids will have another opportunity, but that's a group that really you feel for.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Was there ever a time, Dewey, that it hit you like all of a sudden? Now I'll be honest, I've been talking about this lately. Week one was a little strange. It kind of felt that way, like, okay, I need to be somewhere, but it kind of for the rest of the year, I don't know if I just put it out of my mind or stayed busy and just tried not to pay attention to it. But when it really hit me was Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. Man, it hit me like upside the head that day that, oh my God, we really are going an entire year without high school football. Because, you know, I mean, Friday and Saturday are the big days, the state final games, and not to have that, man, it really hit me. Did you have that moment where it really hit you?
I thought it would have been opening night, but at that point we were still in limbo that it could be started, could be delayed. When it really hit me is what would have been the week of playoff pairings and the opening week of the playoffs.
Yeah, because that is such a big week on so many levels, from the radio station side and everything else. And yeah, I can see that for sure. Joe, you know, your life has been impacted many ways because of this.
Yes.
From the teaching side, from the coaching side, from your broadcasting side. Has there been a moment where, I mean, at least from the broadcasting side, that it hit you that all of a sudden you're not doing games this year?
Well, you know, the opening weekend, as both you gentlemen know, I was kind of incapacitated with the knee replacement surgery, so I probably wouldn't have been able to do any games. But as you, Edge, when I called you Friday night, I said, hey, what time are we leaving for Champaign tomorrow morning? Yeah. That's when it really hit.
Yeah.
And you just say to yourself, man alive, it's been a year without football. And it was just, it's kind of melancholy. And you like I told you, around here, I would go downstairs and get all the Christmas stuff out for Debbie, and I'd leave for the football games, come back, and the house would be all done. And that was that's been a routine for 10, 12 years. But that's when it really hit, when I gave you that call and said, man alive, we should be going on to Champaign tomorrow morning.
It's one of those, especially you guys doing the radio side. I mean, obviously I do Thursday nights, but you guys do the games, and people have asked me, do you miss it? And it's just like, I mean, yeah, of course. And then I'll ask from your side. I mean, Dewey, you've mentioned 27 years of doing this. I know you pretty well, and I think if they fired up games tomorrow at Joliet Memorial, you'd be the first one there. True?
Absolutely true.
That's what I figured. Or basketball or whatever. I think you'd be the first one out there. Joe, you've been at this for a while too, and you mentioned you had your knee replacement surgery, and will you be back when this thing fires up again? Did that cross your mind at all?
I would absolutely love to. But again, coaching baseball, again, and we'll get into this maybe later, but the overlapping of the seasons and stuff, I'd probably start out and do some games. I'd love to do games. I would like Dewey. I'd be right out there with you tomorrow at the Joliet Memorial Stadium doing football games. And I think the guy hosting this show would be on the sidelines with his camera. So
I'd be fighting you to get into the gate. What are you talking about? So
yeah, I'd be raring to go.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think what's been really frustrating about all of this is, Dewey, you mentioned, we've just been led along during all of this. And again, it's not going to get into the political side because I don't do that, but isn't part of this though, the reason we're in this, let's face it, whether we wanted to be a part of it and involved in it or not, was the political side of this. I mean, you can't avoid it now, can you, Dewey?
No, I don't think there's any doubt at all. There's a lot of layers in this. Obviously, for my regular job, I manage a lot of the country, and it just floors me from state to state how different things are going on. Some things allowed in some places, some not in others. Joe and I were talking last night. It's kind of amazing. You watch the Bears-Packers Sunday, and there wasn't a ton of people in Lambeau Field, but there was.
Yeah.
And the fact that Wisconsin's rate is double what Illinois is, a lot of this doesn't make any sense.
No. And Joe, I mean, I know you and I have talked in all these other states that got going and found a way of getting it in. That has not made things any easier, at least in my eyes.
Not at all. And there's a lot of pressure as you and I have talked, and I was talking to Dewey last night, a lot of pressure on the governor, a lot of pressure on the IHSA. And I don't think the two sides meet and actually talk about this too much.
No,
I really don't.
no,
and that's the big problem. And
well, I think part of the problem now is that you have entities like the IHSA and there's several others. I mean, this is being controlled by our governor. It's as simple as that. And, he's got bigger fish to fry. I mean, you haven't even gotten to sit down with him, and I don't see it happening anytime soon.
No, either do I. I don't want to use I used the term last night, hostage, but it seems like that's what's happening in Illinois. Yeah. That those sports he's hanging sports over everybody's head, the schools, the IHSA, everything. And he's basing everything upon that. And we see in the NFL, we saw it a little, we've seen it this week with the game last night, which was unbelievable in the afternoon to come home and you're in the middle of the second quarter and of a pro game, but it's inevitably going to happen. I mean, if a couple kids do get it, and some high schools have it, and they push through it and stuff like that, even without the athletics, it's going to happen. So,
Yeah.
I think, it's all hindsight and stuff, but maybe they just should have started and see what would have happened.
All right, Dewey, I know you got to cut out of here in a couple minutes, but the one thing I want to throw at you and get your thoughts on, are we going to see spring football in your opinion? And if not, when will we see football and start up again here in the state of Illinois for high school?
Boy, great question. One thing I wanted to throw off you before we get into that is, I know a few weeks ago you were mentioning the semifinals. How many Friday night games would we have had? And the one point I want to bring up to you is I agree, except for the geography factor. Because by that point, with how the structure is now, how many of these coaches would have already been on the Saturday program? And as we know, once they go Saturday, they don't go back.
Yeah, it's just the point. I think the point in that, what we were talking about, and again, Dewey's talking about the weather, how great of all the years,
Yeah.
arguably the best Friday weather ever. Like, I think there was one Friday where we had rain, and it was a lot of rain, but we had some rain. Otherwise, it's been gorgeous. I mean, look, even today, it's almost 50 degrees in December, early December.
Yep.
But, you know, we were just kind of talking about that and saying, you know, it just makes, you know, total ridiculousness that we missed an entire football season with arguably the best football weather we've ever had in the state. And yeah, it's something that you're right. I mean, it would have, as we narrowed down and kept moving along, we would have seen Saturdays, but it would have been nice to have that option to play on Fridays. And you know as well as I do, especially some schools in our area here in Will County, some of those guys would have wanted to play on Fridays as long as they could go. So
Absolutely.
So
And
great football.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, you know, I talked to Joe. Here's the problem you face now. Now you're in this situation where, I mean, there's a lot of sports, but specifically talking about basketball, football, and baseball. Okay. Where does that go? Where do facilities go with some places that don't have the capability because the weather's much different this time of year? I don't know where all this goes till they make some kind of decision. The only thing I will say is, and I've talked to some people about this, if you look at last year, football had their season, basketball had their season with the exception of the playoffs getting cut off, and baseball lost theirs. So to me, if there's a priority of any of them, I don't want to see the baseball and the softball lose another season.
Agreed. And that's a football guy telling you that. I totally agree. Yeah, Joe, we'll get into our thoughts on spring football or not in a little bit down the road, but I wanted Dewey to have a chance to address that. Two things real quick before we cut you loose, Dewey. Number one, your Cubs. I know last night Kyle Schwarber was not tendered a contract. You know, you obviously are in line for some changes as an organization. What are you kind of expecting over the next couple of months with the Cubs?
Well, the Schwarber ball against the Cardinals will forever sit on top of the scoreboard and right. So
they're not going to remove it.
No, his legacy will stay. Can't take away his contributions. I find it ironic that basically the second Theo's gone because he was a Theo guy. He's one of the quote unquote first ones from the core to make a move. I think things are going to look a lot different, but as you and I talked, I think a lot of these clubs, it's going to be a late off-season transactions because they want to know if they're going to have the revenue from fans in the stands.
Yeah, that's a big part of it for sure. I think from our side of town too, which we'll get into. And then just real quickly, last thing, I had a chance to turn on Illinois last night, men's basketball. Lost to Baylor, but I tell you what, Dewey, and you know me, I'm not exactly a huge Illini basketball fan. There's another team I root for, my own Salukis, but at least physically, Dewey, that's a man's team, your Illini this year. They look pretty darn good.
They looked really good, fell apart later stages of the game. They were right there with Baylor, and Baylor was on fire. I'm sure Underwood's not happy. I don't think a loss like that is bad early. A couple games ago, they should have lost. They were just pulled it out in the end against a lesser team, but I think that gives Underwood a lot to work on.
Yeah, it's but again, what impressed me was just physically, they're going to match up with everybody this year. They're not going to get outsized by anybody, which I think is half the battle sometimes in college hoops. But you know, I like I said, it didn't finish great, but they showed me a lot. I think they're going to be really good this year. So.
They'll be right there.
All right, get out of here.
Dewey.
You're done, Dewey.
All right, guys, take care.
Yeah, all right. Dave Dwyer joining us on the Edgy Zoom, and we appreciate Dewey. Dewey, you can just exit out or whatever you got to do. You're all good. I'm not cutting you loose, so you fade away, hang up. And there he goes. All right, who snuck in the shot there, Joe? Was that my guy?
That was little Rowan. You met Rowan
Oh,
the other night. Yes, my little
Okay.
granddaughter.
All right, so now that Dewey's gone, now we can make fun of him. No, I'm kidding. So let's get back to it. And I wanted you to have a little time to expound on when we talk about COVID, and we've talked about a little bit from the sports side. What about from the teacher side? How is that? Talk about an adjustment. And I know, again, with the knee replacement, you didn't start the school year on time. You were recovering from that. But now that you've been back for a while, I mean, how different is your world now in the teaching side compared to a year ago?
Well, I'll tell you this right now, and I think I speak for all the teachers in Illinois and all over the United States. We work harder now than we did if we had kids in the class.
Yeah, I believe it.
Trying to get things organized for the Google Classroom and the Zoom and the Google Meets and things like that with the kids, and it's tough on the kids too. But the teachers, all this different type of technology. I'm still not a wizard at it, as you saw, just trying to get out here. My daughter helped me here, but I feel a little more confident as far as teaching the kids virtual. I know I mess up a few times, but overall, it's been really hard. I mean, I'm sure most teachers are like me. I like to have the kids in class. I like to talk to them and, first couple minutes of the class, see how it's going. And I try to do that with them because the hardest part right now is getting the kids to talk online.
Yeah.
And you can ask questions until the cows come home, and you're giving them questions to think about and to talk about. And sure, the kids eventually do come on, a few of them do talk, but it's completely different than the classroom. And again, I don't know what effect this is going to have on them moving on. I mean, I hope and I pray that it won't matter to me after May 26th.
Yeah.
But,
how many days left? You got the countdown yet?
102.
102. There you go.
Not that I'm counting, but hopefully by the beginning of next year's school year, it'll be back to normal. And I think not only the teachers, but the students and the parents will have more of appreciation of being in school.
Oh, I've talked to, I talk to kids every night from the recruiting side, and they joke with me all the time that, boy, I never thought I'd say I can't wait to get back into school, but they can't wait to get back into school. I mean,
right.
After going through, the end of the last semester last year and the start of this semester this year, a lot of those kids have been literally on online learning since March, and there's no, most of the school districts have told them, okay, spring semester, we'll look at it and see. So they, there's no guarantee of anything of them going back anytime soon. And I mean, you mentioned the impact, and I mean, let's face it, we're all impacted by this thing. And there are gonna be studies, and there are gonna be stories, and of the mental well-being and anguish and depression and stress and everything else. From a kid standpoint, a teacher standpoint, adult standpoint, I mean, there's no doubt about it. But yeah, like you said, I hope eventually with the vaccines coming in, hopefully that can move things along quickly and hopefully get us back to somewhat kind of normalcy.
And one more comment about that.
Ahead. Sure.
Is that I see a difference this year compared to last year, because everything was just thrown upon those seniors last year. And when we started, there was always that hope that you would get back to school.
Yeah.
But as it's kept going and going and going, March became April became May. And those seniors knew that the athletic side was done for the year. And those seniors that, let's say, don't play sports, there was no prom, no graduation, no, dances or whatever at school. And I saw personally with kids, because I teach seniors, that they became more and more depressed as it went on. It really did. And I really felt bad for them. This year, it's a little bit different, even though we're 25% at Lamont, and I get a few kids here and there to come in the classroom, and I get to actually get a chance to talk to them. And there's not that anxiety yet. There's not that anxiety yet with those kids yet. And I talk to them, like I said, every day, try to get them to talk first couple minutes to see how they're doing and stuff like that. And they seem to be a little bit more upbeat this year than, of course, the dreaded last year with the springtime.
What I found interesting in talking to different kids, and again, I talk to kids from all over the state, so they're all in different school districts and have handled things kind of differently. What I find most interesting are schools that gave kids options, whether to go hybrid or to stay at home and do all online. Kids that have decided to go back to hybrid, a lot of them decided to go back to online because they were telling me they went hybrid and they would be in school and there'd be like 2 other kids in their class.
And that's how it is at Lamont. I mean, there's some days where I don't have anybody in class. They're all of them are online with me, but nobody's in class. But I get on an average, I would say an average, maybe 3 kids for every class. And sometimes I get 7, so it's nice to have a lot of kids. It really is in class. So, and I'm sure every teacher would agree with me there.
Yeah. So from a baseball side, as Dewey mentioned, we went through the calendar. For those that aren't aware, IHSA football did not play this fall. It's been pushed back. It's supposed to start February 15th. Basketball was supposed to start mid-late November. That's been suspended at least through January, as the latest is what we've been told. Baseball, Joe, your dates are still set for now.
Right.
I guess the questions I have and just some thoughts is as Dewey mentioned, and I totally agree. I think you guys probably have the best odds right now to get going just from a timing standpoint. And quite honestly, you should have that. I mean, it's you guys should have every advantage of starting up the season because you lost one last year. I just think that's fair. Coaching wise, what have you guys talked about? What have you heard? And kind of what's the approach? I'm sure the offseason is much different now than it was, say, a year ago.
Yeah, again, we got a chance to go out in the fall a little bit. I mean, I did. I haven't really talked to Jared Voss, the head coach at Joliet Catholic. I talked to him a lot, but I haven't talked to him about if they're weightlifting in the weight room, which at this time right now they would be doing that, and hitting on their own and doing things like that. But it's just tough for me personally because, again, I'm not around the only time I get to be around the kids if it was a regular time is I'll go every once in a while and go in the weight room and talk to the kids and stuff like that. Yeah. Now I don't do that. So it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's tough on the aspect I have because I don't really losing a season. I only know a few of the seniors now.
Right.
The sophomores would be juniors. I saw some of them this fall and I thought Jared did a great job with the inter squad stuff, with the juniors and seniors and also with the freshmen and sophomores. So I got a chance to see those kids, but as far as the day-to-day stuff, be honest with you, I really don't know. And I talked to Jared on Monday or Tuesday. We usually talk before school about 7 o'clock in the morning. And he was, we're asking about the dates and stuff. And again, I hate to be selfish and stuff, but I do agree. And I've said this to you a couple times that it would be absolutely devastating for baseball, softball, all the spring sports if they were told they couldn't do it again.
Yeah.
That would again, I'm not saying it would just be, I was going to use the word devastating. I mean,
it's a very appropriate word. I think the advantage you would have this time around, as we mentioned, obviously a vaccine will get going. The other advantage is other states were able to pull it off. And, and again, we tried that tactic with football. Hey, governor, look, all these other states are going. He didn't buy it, but again, I just think it's really going to come down to the timing. And I think right now you're in line the best timing wise to be able to pull off a full season. So,
right. And I've watched a few division, the basketball, and they've got the basketball players so far. The one
Yeah.
thing about baseball, though, you're going to have people come to games without a doubt. They're starved for athletics, high
Yeah.
school sports.
Yeah.
So, as far as if you have 24, 25, 26 guys on a team, 9 guys on the field, you get coaching staff of 3 or 4 guys, and you're going to have to separate those kids from the bench. So I don't know how that's going to happen. We haven't talked about that yet because, again, we don't know when the season's going to start. But I would assume that that's going to be a conversation that the coaching staffs are going to have. And like I told you, I'll wear a mask until, maybe the entire year for me.
Yeah. Same here. I got no problem with it.
But I would just love to get out there and just and play games. I know we have our schedule, and it's just conference games, like I told you before, and we have the dates for those, and then there's that 2-week gap or 3-week gap where if there is a state tournament or some type of tournament, 1 through 4A would play the same time. There would be no like a week before for 1A and 2A, and then 3 and 4A would start a week later. Everything is going to be synced up to the same dates.
Yeah. So again, I asked Dewey the question, and I might as well answer it because I get asked it every single day since this all began. Do I think we'll play football in the spring? And Joe, I've said for a while now, I'm 50-50 at best. I think a negative is basketball getting pushed back because it's going to push their calendar back. And I said this a long time ago, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I think until we see schools go back and have students in the building full time on a regular basis, I don't see us returning to sports at the high school level. And that could be wrong, but Joe, I just don't see it.
I love all high school sports like you do and Dewey does. Right. I don't think until we get to a 50-50 type deal, but even when you get 50-50, a lot more kids are staying home anyway.
Yeah.
And I know, again, being in the social studies department and one of the guys that are, in with us as a dean, and they have to report every day as far as the attendance is concerned. And my son-in-law is a dean also. So, we talk about that too, and how many kids actually go to school, at Sandburg, where my daughter and my son-in-law teach. So you're right. I don't, unless all schools go 50-50. I know we talked about it at Lamont to go 50-50. It was November 1st, but that changed. That changed pretty quick with the right. And I think, be honest with you, I think we're going to be 25. I think we're going to be this way for the entire year. So to answer your question, there's not going to be any football this year.
Yeah, and it to me, it just goes back to a timing thing where if they'll look at it, you look at all these other sports, basketball getting pushed back, and they'll look at it and go, well, you know what, just the timing isn't going to work for football. We can't keep pushing football back. We can't keep pushing all these other sports back. Right. Something's going to have to get cut, and I think they're going to look at it. And what doesn't work in our favor for football is that in a regular season, you would start your contact days beginning of June. So they're going to look at it and go, look, okay, you're X amount of weeks away from when you would have started preparing for the next season. And again, I hope to God I'm wrong, because I want to see these kids play for all the reasons we've mentioned already. Mm-hmm. From a recruiting standpoint, just having tape, it's huge. These kids are at a huge disadvantage. And again, that's a whole other Zoom for a whole other discussion.
Yes, it is.
But it's just, again, I just don't see the timing aspect really working out with what they have. First of all, Joe, have you ever taken a team? Now, you might have with baseball. Have you ever taken a team outside on February 15th for a practice?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, no, we can't start until March 1st, but there was a couple years when I was a head coach at Joliet Catholic where it was 65 degrees. We were practicing out at Joliet Junior College because Wayne King was very nice to us because they were down in Tennessee or Kentucky. So we used their field for a complete week, but generally, no. That's few and far between.
Yes.
And like Dewey was mentioning too, as far as facilities, I totally agree with
Fields.
him.
Yep.
For example, at Lamont, we have a gymnasium and we have a field house. But again, if you have 4, 5, 6 sports going, let's say football can't get outside, well, then that becomes a whole nother nightmare for the athletic director. You know, and
the
trying
other
to get
issue,
time.
the other issue is you're condensing all these seasons in a very short window from, especially from the small school standpoint, you're gonna make kids have to pick a
Yes,
sport.
we talked about that. Like, again, even at Joliet Catholic, you may have to have kids.
Right.
Some kids pick between football, basketball, or baseball.
And football is going to most likely lose in that equation because football is a sport you need the numbers in most.
Yes.
And, you know, I just, another argument to why I don't think spring is going to happen for football, because I think they're going to look at those other sports, and especially the small schools. And believe me, the small schools have a pretty loud voice, I feel, when it comes to this stuff and multi-sports. And I think that's going to be another factor. So,
Right. I look at two schools in our area, Wilmington and Coal City.
I
that
talked to
perfectly
Jeff
fit that.
Raines today, actually,
You know,
about the
and-
same thing.
And, you know, great football program, great baseball programs, basketball. I mean, football and basketball, I mean, I should say football and baseball at those two schools over the last 5 years has been tremendous.
Yeah.
And a lot of those kids, you know, the majority, you know, who knows, 80% of the kids that play football play baseball. So it's just hard.
No, I agree. So, boy, I tell you what, I hope we're wrong, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Right.
And we'll see how things progress. All right. I don't want to keep it too much longer, but I think we owe it to ourselves to talk about our White Sox.
Yes, sir.
Tony La Russa. Your thoughts, Joe, on Tony La Russa as the White Sox manager?
I was absolutely shocked.
Me too.
When I heard that. But as I give you all, you know, I've got some insiders, and I called you a couple days before it even was announced, and
Yep.
and we talked. I think we talked for 45 minutes about it.
Yep.
Again, without the baggage that he's bringing to Chicago, I think he's a great coach. He's proven it at, you know, in a couple different spots. I think he can teach these younger kids something that they need to progress themselves, to maybe win a couple series and maybe get to the American League Championship Series. I think the biggest hire by him, and again, I know he's been hiring some coaches, and you and I've talked about this, who is going to be his right-hand man in the dugout? Because I think eventually,
Miguel Cairo, it sounds like.
yeah, I don't know if Miguel Caro is managerial material,
Yeah.
but I don't see La Russa going for 8-10 years at this. I don't personally.
No.
And I think, you know, a lot of people in the media in Chicago, well, can he handle, you know, Tim Anderson's bat toss or whatever? La Russa can do anything you want. I mean, he will.
Right.
I mean, I'm not worried about that at all. I'm not worried about the instruction of the young players or how he's going to handle them. He's had young teams in Oakland. He's had young players all the time,
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, that's not a big deal to me. But yeah, I was kind of shocked at the beginning. I think it turned out he did have baggage, but I think with the AJ Hinch thing, trying to get around that,
No, I agree.
and you know, and I think he's a good manager too, but I think they wanted to steer clear of that.
So with La Russa being hired, and obviously this is a Jerry Reinsdorf production, there's no doubt.
Without a doubt.
If you saw Rick Hahn's reaction at that press conference, you know, that was so revealing. Just his reaction in a way.
Mhm.
You could tell there was no doubt he was not thrilled about the hiring. So what that makes me to believe, and at least think, you know, the window is here. And so, and again, you, on one side, you think, okay, the Sox have to be going for it this offseason, because you don't hire a guy like a La Russa if you're going to nitpick here and there and try to back your way into something. I think you're going to go all in, put the chips all in the middle. Yet, as Dewey mentioned earlier in this, which is a very good point, you know, we don't know when the fans will be allowed back. You don't know when you can expect that revenue. And trust me, we all know Jerry's going to look very closely at the revenue portion of it.
You're exactly right.
So, is this going to be one of those deals where they're going to dabble a little bit and go with what they have? Or are they going to slide the chips in the middle and say, let's go? Right now, we don't know. And Joe, I really don't have a feel for now. You?
Right. No, yeah, no, either do I. I agree with you. And, you and I have talked a lot over the winter time and over the last couple of weeks. If they're going to push all the chips in, they're going to have to get another good starting pitcher.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're going to have to trade some commodities.
Yes.
Because the revenue is not there for this year, and it might not be there for next year. And I think a great example of that and is with the Cubs. They might have held on to, letting Schwarber go and then not tendering him a contract. The Sox have to be careful of that too. And what the Cubs just went through over the last 4 years, as far as hanging on to guys and not trading them to try to get some better pieces and not worrying about what you and I think as far as the Sox were trying to do what's best for the team. And I certainly hope, and we don't have a crystal ball to see any of this stuff, but I know that they want another left-handed bat. And I mentioned a guy to you, and I'm not going to say it on this Zoom chat here, but I mentioned a guy that they're going after. And we talked about a couple pitchers, and I think and you're going to have to trade for one of these two guys.
What I think we're going to see, the more I think about it, you mentioned trades. I think we're more inclined to see a trade than a free agent signing. I really do.
Yeah, so do I.
I think, people have brought up Blake Snell. I could definitely see in this White Sox team being involved. Now, I don't know, and let's face it, I would be a little bit afraid to deal with Tampa Bay because of how good they are when it comes to trades.
Yeah. And what they do with those pieces. Yeah.
Yeah. They know what they're doing.
Yep.
It's going to take quality to get a guy like that, a guy with 3 years control. So you're going to have to put together a pretty impressive package. So I've got to imagine if that's the deal, they're going to want pitching. They're going to want a Kopech. They're going to want a Dunning or even a Crochet. Now, again, that's a name I don't think I would trade because I haven't seen enough.
No, I would not trade that guy.
But they are going to want quality to get a guy like that. And you know what, Joe? I'm going to listen if I'm the Sox.
Yes. Oh, I definitely
he's a
agree.
front of the line rotation guy under 3 years control. I think he'll listen.
Yes, I agree. They should.
All right. One other question I have to ask, and again, we're going to get a little deep here, Joe. All right. You're a Bears fan, right?
Oh, of course I am.
I know. I have just one question for you. Why are we still Bear fans?
Boy,
Why, Joe? Why?
Because we're old.
And we grew up that way, and we were force-fed to be Bear fans.
And I was thinking the other day, driving home, and they were talking about the Bears and the quarterback situation, this and that. There's really, I hate to go back and you get tired of it sometimes, but the 85 team had a good offense and a great defense. And there were some other teams. The last time we were at a Super Bowl, Rex was our quarterback. And he was just it was a defense that led them to the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I can't even remember the last time where we had a above average offense in Chicago. I don't know what it is with
we just can't.
I don't know what it is.
It is very comparable to the White Sox having a power hitting right fielder that never hits for power.
You're right. Because we've
tried
tried that.
One of those.
We've tried that a few times, haven't we?
And they're all named Adam, and none of them can hit. So
that's right. They can strike out a lot, though. We know that.
But you look at the Bears, and it's just. And again, look, I guess my emotional support team is the White Sox. That is the one team that You can drag me through the mud. I don't care. You can laugh, make fun of me about LaRussa and Andy the Clown and the shower out in the outfield and the neighborhood and everything else. And I don't
Disco
care.
demolition, yeah.
I don't care.
Yep.
I'm a Sox fan until the day I die. I've been that way with the Bears. But, you know, I just, the more you see this, you know, they're terrible. They can't put an offense together. They play in the worst stadium in the NFL.
Yep.
You know, you just go on and on and on, and you just scratch your head and go, God, why are we still putting up with this? Is a city? Why are we still?
They play the Lions this weekend. I know they fired Matt Patricia and stuff, but they still have a decent. I mean, I know Matthew Stafford. I mean, I know he's getting up there, but he's still I take him in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
There's no doubt. So we didn't answer any of that.
No.
I guess I'll still be a Bears fan, but
So will I. I mean, that's
it makes you wonder. You've got plenty of grandkids there. Please make sure you're giving them an option when it comes to having a favorite team, please.
Yes.
Do that
Yes,
for
for sure.
grandkids. Don't will them into this.
Well, you know as good as I do, your buddy Kane is a Packer fan, so that's because his mother is a Packer fan.
Oh, but see, that is so wrong. That is so
Listen,
the opposite way.
I've got time. He's only 5. I've got
settle on Kansas City or settle on, you know, New England even.
Yeah, I've got time with him. I've got time.
Green Bay. Oh,
yeah, well, you know,
it's too extreme, Joe. Oh well.
And I don't win too many of those battles with her either. I'll tell you that right now.
I know.
I just have to sit there and take it.
All right. Well, I don't think this sucked. I enjoyed it. I hope someone else out there does. Maybe we'll do this again soon if we have something else, nothing else better to go. Maybe the one and only Kevin Malloy will find a way. Krista, we're gonna have another client for you, so you better get lined up. We'll get all these old people hooked up to Zoom, and no, he'll drag us down to his office, and we'll be wearing masks doing our next episode. Probably.
It will be socially distanced.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we are now. That's the nice part about it.
You can't get much farther than we are right now. And like I said, when you stopped by to deliver your present, and it was, and as I told you, it was gone by Sunday. That's the first time I saw you live since.
I know.
January.
November. I don't know.
We all, you know.
No, we went out to dinner.
Yeah.
Before this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's been the last time. So
man.
I know. It's
That's
crazy.
brutal. That's brutal.
All right. Well, Joe, I'm going to tell you one more time before we end this. Make sure you punch out. Okay.
I will.
All right, buddy. Tell everyone.
Listen, I got my phone. I'm ready to go.
Attaboy. Tell everyone they're the best.
Yes, everybody at your house too.
And that's it. Another EDGYZoom. Hope you enjoyed. See you.